And one of the things I'm always interested in is, firstly, making the right decision is hard. And when you only sit in front of a spreadsheet or just take in numbers and data, you don't necessarily get all of the information you need to make good decisions. So part of the empathy process is to say, well, how will people respond to this? What's the emotional data that's going on?
Welcome to Season 5 of Manage Self, Lead Others with host Nina Sunday. This season, as well as workplace culture, we're going deeper into embedding innovation, AI, and invisible patterns shaping how we lead. Each episode, bold thinkers join us to explore how to lead with intention, elevate team culture, and stay future ready. The future of leadership starts with the questions we ask.
Daniel Murray is Australia's leading expert on embedding empathy into culture to drive performance. Daniel Murray helps leaders turn empathy into a real competitive advantage. He's the CEO of Empathic Consulting, a keynote speaker, and the author of The Empathy Gap. With a background in mathematics and strategy, Daniel realised the toughest business problems aren't technical, they're human, and that insight reshapes how he thinks about leadership and performance. Welcome, Daniel Murray.
Thank you for having me, Nina. It's an absolute pleasure to see you and be with you today.
Oh, yes. And I'm excited because, look, I went to your book launch and I got your book there and I've been rereading it. And I tell you what, you got me at the introduction. You described the problem so perfectly. You had this project manager with their Gantt chart about what's going to happen and when and how many people are going to do what. And there was nothing about, do they want to be involved? Have you actually considered their motivation in the whole process, and the fact that human variability to implementation is possibly the key issue that blows out budgets and exceeds timelines? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, as a mathematician, I love systems, and I love the way a system sits together and interacts, and there's different elements that interact on each other. And so when you look at a system, you want to understand what's the variables, what are the things that can change, what are the things that can move, what are the things we need to measure. And in project management, we seem to measure people as FTE, full-time equivalent. Am I getting 100% of them 5 days a week, 20% 1 day a week? And we use this number like it's gospel, like it's a fact.
Like you could just switch these people on, and like a machine, they will just operate at full functionality just because you're paying them to do the job they're paid to do.
100%. Because there's a warm body there, they're going to function at 100% capacity. And you know this as well as I do. We're not always at our best. I always use this analogy. If you had a fleet of trucks, and one of them's blowing smoke and not going as fast as it should, you wouldn't yell at the truck and hope it does better next time. You'd go, gee, something's going on with the truck. We better pull it off the road. We better see what's going on, see how we can fix it and get it back to its best performance. We don't do that with humans.
Exactly. Now, this is one of the questions I will be asking you is what behaviours can leaders change? But I'm going to propose that every project manager leading a project and every leader overseeing a project manager should be able to ask and be given the answer, and who is the change manager? Because the change manager has a timeline for when the people involved are going to be informed, they're going to be motivated, they're going to have all the knowledge, they're going to have the training, they're going to be supported to actually take their role as it comes to them. And that's why we have ADKAR, desire, knowledge, ability, and then reinforcement, constantly reminding them of this is how it goes, and also having that open channel of communication. If you have any questions and want to ask one-on-one, I'm here, come and see me. So it's that human element for implementation that is so important. I think you agree with that.
100%. And I think the beauty of good change managers is they realize they're in the business of engaging humans.
Yes.
So we've all probably seen this, where change management lets itself down is when it thinks it's a series of tasks and boxes that need to be ticked.
Yes.
You know, ADKAR is a great framework, but if you think desire is I've written an email, I've pressed send, you have the desire now, good luck to you. That's not how humans work. And so, part of our role as a change manager is to build relationships with the people that I'm supporting. And so often I see we have this misconception that because there's a lot of processes and systems and tangible sort of elements of business these days, that we have these transactions with machines and with systems that we think we just do the same thing with humans. We just have transactions with humans. Humans don't want transactions. They want relationships.
That's right.
My computer doesn't have to trust me when I press spacebar, but my person does have to trust me when I ask them to do something. Or when I say to them, do you have any questions? If they don't trust me, I get a very different response than if they do. And so that relationship piece is critical when we're stepping into that messy world of change management, of project management, of just working with people.
Yeah. So you actually have a very easy to understand, but possibly more tricky to implement, which is a four-part empathy process. And the first part is to be consciously curious.
Yeah.
I so agree with that. But tell us how you would advise a leader to be consciously curious.
So consciously curious is a simple set of two words. It sounds easy, but it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so it might be worth, as we talk about what it is, to talk about what stops us from doing it. Being consciously curious is being interested without judgment, without it's sort of seeking answers without preconceived assumptions or ideas. And the reason why we don't do that naturally is because we're busy. We've got stuff to do. We've got deadlines. We've got pressure on our shoulders. All these things are going on. And so what most people do is they go into a meeting with a really strict agenda or a set of questions they need answers to. And so it's acknowledging that there are things that are blind spots for you. There are things that are outside of your awareness at the moment. And if you want really good information, sometimes you have to just go in with interest and not try and lead the conversation to a specific outcome. I don't know if you've seen the Jekyll and Hyde type leaders before, Nina, and they happen in many spaces. What they tend to do is sometimes they're really nice. They say good morning. They're friendly. Right. They buy cupcakes. We do all the fun stuff. But every now and then, often when the pressure comes on, they change. Right? They become cynical or direct or horrible or aggressive. Just the world changes under their feet.
Right.
And the real problem with Jekyll and Hyde leaders, and again, this is where we want leaders to manage themselves. The problem is in their minds, the story they're telling is, hey, most of the time I'm pretty good. Actually, I do wonderful things. Did you say I said good morning? I bought the cupcakes. The story in their head is those times aren't my fault. It's an external thing that causes those bad times. And the rest of the time I am lovely, so everything's okay.
That's what they think. But then if they get a consultant in to do some one-on-ones, the people actually say, well, this is actually how I feel.
And that's right. And so the story from the people who report to them or work with them is you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
I never know when the switch is going to go off. The question is, can you be aware of your emotions and then deploy behaviors off the back of them that get you the outcomes you're after, that help you move things forward and make the world better around you, and make sure that those behaviors don't push people into that negative space. We don't start to see that productivity number getting compressed down because of my behavior, because this is the terrible cycle. I feel pressure, so I'm going to whip my team a little bit and try and make sure we get the results up. My behavior then pushes their productivity down. And we need leaders who can instead absorb some of that internal pressure and think, okay, this is a challenge. What can I do that's going to help my team rally and push that number back up?
Now, in your chapter called Leading with Empathy, you really spend a bit of time focusing on the process of decision making and how it can be less than perfect. So tell us about your philosophy around decision making.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I spent a lot of time in corporate strategy and management consulting teams where we help teams to make better decisions, particularly looking at their broad organizational strategies. And people spend a lot of time thinking about, is this the right decision? If I think about, let's say I made a decision that numerically or statistically looked really sound. I make this decision here. Well, really, that hasn't made any impact yet. What makes an impact is when I implement this decision and it gets put into practice and the outcome is determined down here somewhere. Now,
Yes.
If I've made this great decision, but my team don't believe it, don't trust it, don't buy in and feel like it's the right thing for them, then what happens during the implementation phase? Well, they don't do their best work. They don't try their hardest. What happens? You've seen this, Nina. What happens when I don't believe in a decision and something goes wrong? What's the first thing people do? Oh, told you so. I knew it. I told you it was the wrong answer. This is what happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so we get this unintentional or intentional white anting and, people just sort of undermining. And so then the outcome we get to, we go, that wasn't a great outcome. And so often people go, maybe we made the wrong decision. I sort of go, no, I think you're missing the point. You could have made, let's say you make a decision that people really buy into, not the perfect decision, but they've really bought into it. They're really agreeing. What happens when things go wrong now? Well, they go, well, that's okay. Let's pivot. We can fix this. I'm sure we can get around it. What can we do differently?
We can do a workaround.
Yeah, we can make this happen. People are passionate. They iterate all the time through this process.
Right.
And often you will get a better outcome. But what happens when you only look at numbers and things in spreadsheets is you never get how people feel about the decision.
How do they feel about the decision? So what can a leader do? Do they have one-on-ones with their people to get feedback, or they could even delegate that task to someone who then reports back?
I think so. And look, what I don't think I'm talking about here is making sure that everyone has their say in every single decision. But sometimes it's just explaining to people, hey, look, I want to talk to you through the process we went through. Put it in their language. I know when you're working with customers, you find these things really frustrating. We do too. What we're going to try and do now is we're going to try and implement a new system because we want to take some of that frustration away. We want to make it easier for you and for the customers. And we want to make sure that they have a better experience, you have a better experience, and we all get better outcomes. Now, if I did that before implementing a new system, then it gives context. What happens too often is a consultant or consultants sit in the background. We say, we're going to sell you this new system. The management team say yes. And then they go to their team, hey, we're putting a new system in. And the team go, what, another new system? Oh, we're going to learn a new system. That's so hard to do. It's annoying. It's frustrating. Why are we even doing this? And no one tells them.
So you've hit the nail on the head, Daniel, which is give people the reason for the decision. Decisions are communicated, but not the context leading up to it and the reasons for choosing that decision, and perhaps even describing, well, we could have done this, we could have done that, but we decided that the best course of action was this.
Absolutely.
And even getting people to agree. Would you agree that with those parameters, that's possibly the best decision we can make in the moment?
Absolutely. And also being humble enough to say, look, it might not be the only way we could do this. There might even be better ways. But based on the information we've got, we've had to make a call.
Yeah.
And I think if we all work together on this, we can make this work really well. But I'm open to conversations. If you find something we should do differently, come and chat to me. If something's not working, let's open up that conversation. And I think it's seeing this as a relationship that we've got rather than a transactional interaction where I tell you, you do. And I think it's strange because we all know that's how we want to be treated.
Yeah.
But we don't seem to acknowledge it when we treat other people that way.
People want to feel like you're confident that they could be trusted with the information, and also ask them, would you be willing to support this decision, and get them to say yes. Yeah. I mean, and if they don't say yes, find out why, and work, just find the reasons why. What does this person need in order to be fully on board?
And I think the other thing you touched on there, which is really important, is let's think about the relationship, the trust relationship we've got before we try and do this to each other. Because often when leaders, this is a question I ask lots of leaders, and it often sort of pushes them a little bit. When we think of the word trust, we typically think, who do I trust? That's sort of the way our brain thinks of it. The much more important question for a leader is, who trusts me?
Oh, right.
Do they look at me and see me as someone they can turn to? They can ask questions. They can challenge safely. That they can. Am I a go-to when things are bad? Am I a safe harbor when they're feeling like they're all at sea? And this relationship is really important because, as you said, I can say to my people, look, when something goes wrong, come and talk to me. But if they don't trust you or they're not sure how you're going to respond, guess what? They won't come. Doesn't matter how often you say it. So we have to be thinking more about what's the relationship we've built over time and less about what's the steps in our Gantt chart that if we mechanically tick off, everything will match. How many projects run on time and on budget? Almost zero.
You're right. You got some stats in your book about the McKinsey research. Everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much. Well, they didn't exactly say that, but they put maths to it, stats to it. Yeah. But that's essentially it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's people go, oh, who's got the time to build those relationships? I haven't got all the energy to go. Well, that's fine. Just know that the investment of time in building the relationships will pay off in every single next interaction that takes place.
You're investing time to save time because the repair, when trust is lost, can take longer.
A lot longer.
Now, I do want to find out more about the psychology of uncertainty and how does this overarch everything?
Uncertainty is a really interesting thing because we like novelty and difference and change sometimes. But one of the things that the brain is hardwired, the neuroscientist Bo Lotto talks about this a lot. Your brain's basic objective is to reduce uncertainty in the world. All right. If we think about trying to strip away all of the fancy stuff, we're essentially just a biological lump that moves through the world trying to keep alive long enough to replicate and do all those sorts of things. That's sort of what we're here for. And I make life sound so horrible, don't I? But, in that context, keeping me safe is really important. And we all know this. That's why we feel fear, we feel anxiety, we feel all these emotions. One of the things that drives a lot of fear and fear and anxiety is when we don't know what's going to happen next. When I always use the example, my daughter, she's 8. When you turn the lights off in her room, she gets scared.
Right.
Now, what is she scared? When you're scared of the dark, what are you scared of? You're not scared of what's there. You're scared of what you imagine is there. And one thing you'll find is really interesting. Very few kids, when you turn the light off, will go, oh, Dad, I imagine there must be a unicorn in my cupboard with lollies popping out of its eyeballs, right? No, they imagine ghosts, monsters, ghouls, someone's there to get them, right? And this is what we all do. When you receive an email saying, can you come into my office? I need to talk to you. What's your initial feeling there? Very few people go,
what have I done wrong?
Exactly. Almost no one goes, promotion time, ding, 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 happy day, right? That's not what our brain does. Our brain imagines what could go wrong, right? There's rumors of a restructure. I'm going to get a great new job. No, most people go, oh, no, what's going to happen to me?
Am I still going to have a job? Yeah.
Exactly.
You do talk about the ancient brain and the fact that, see, the reason we are all here today is because our very early ancestors were paranoid of predators. So we've actually inherited this paranoia, but not of monsters, but really of things that happen in our world. Look, we're coming to the end of our time, Daniel, so I'm curious to know, how do you work with organisations? You're a consultant. You're also a keynote speaker, so you do conference presenting.
Yeah, and look, there's many different ways, and I try, in my world, it feels disingenuous to have a one-size-fits-all when I talk about how everyone's different and complex and we need to be adaptive, right? So I do speak at conferences. I talk about empathy and leadership, how do you build empathy into team culture, giving hard feedback, managing people who aren't performing, and how do you do all these things with empathy and care. But then also we do a lot of work with leadership teams, working with whole teams across organizations to how do we bring that to life? So how do we impart some of the tools? How do we give people some of the knowledge so that they can make those decisions, have better conversations, challenge each other more effectively? And that's usually through some training. Sometimes that's a day or half a day. Sometimes that's multiple days over many months. Each time when I talk with a potential client, my objective is really to understand, where are they, what's going on, what are they trying to achieve, and then am I the right person to help them get there?
Well, The Empathy Gap is on Amazon. It's also in Australian airport bookstores.
Yep, all bookstores should be there still.
Yeah. So it's a good read, and it's also, it's something that, look, leadership kind of is a topic that gets bandied around, but empathy, leading with empathy, that's really what Manage Self, Lead Others is really all about, how to lead with empathy. And you can always be learning. I've picked up some wonderful gems from you today, Daniel. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Nina. Thank you.
My guest today was Daniel Murray, author of The Empathy Gap and CEO of Empathic Consulting. The link will be in the show notes. And my name is Nina Sunday, and this is the Manage Self, Lead Others show. You can listen on all the major podcast apps and watch the video on YouTube and Spotify. And if you are enjoying the show, remember to support it by leaving a 5-star review. How you do it is, it's on Apple Podcasts on your phone. Just scroll past the episodes to ratings and reviews and tap 5 stars. And that simple act helps other leaders discover the show. Until next time, bye for now.
Manage Self, Lead Others has launched the book, available on Amazon, paperback, Kindle and audiobook. Not transcripts, but it's Nina Sunday's reflections on the big ideas and insights from each guest, and is adventure calling. If podcasting is the new white paper, then a travel retreat is the new corporate offsite. Short retreats in exotic locations are launching this year, so head to ninasunday.com to express your interest and be part of this learning meets travel chapter for leaders, people managers and entrepreneurs. Plus, looking for a conference speaker or workshop facilitator to uplevel your team in Australia or anywhere in the world? Visit brainpowertraining.com.au or ninasunday.com. Until you tune in next time,